Hey, Colorado, Chris Lopez here and my crew to come talk deals and trends. Normally we talk trends first, then deals. We decided to spice things up and talk deals first and then go trends. So hopefully you guys can handle the big change. So good morning, Jenny from Southern Colorado.
Morning.
Jeff White here from House Hackett in Denver.
Yes, sir.
Troy with Nova Home Loans and Steve Medina up north. How you guys all doing?
Excellent. Fabulous.
Well, all right. So deals first. That was the powwow vote we had earlier today. So Jenny, let's start with your fourplex because last time you were looking at fourplex in Pueblo and then that didn't happen. So tell us what you're up to.
Yeah. So knock on wood, we have inspection tomorrow. So anything could happen, but it looks like it's in really great shape. So I'm hopeful. But anyways, we locked up a fourplex for $660,000 in Colorado Springs. Rents are just shy of $5,000 a month, which is really good. So I was super happy with that. So yeah, I just did the math and it was a little bit over a 6.5 cap with me self-managing it. So yeah, the interest rate is kind of, a little not pleasant, but I think the rest of our portfolio kind of, buffers that out a little bit, averages it out somewhat. So that's kind of how we're looking at it. So I'm pretty excited about that. And it's going to be part of a lazy 1031 exchange.
All right. So a lot going on here. What's the interest rate and down payment approximately, like percent wise?
So we're just going to put down 25%, and it's 7.5% for the interest rate.
Wow.
And will that cash flow at 25% down, you self-managing?
Yep, $200 a month with an 8% maintenance buffer in there.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
so
then,
not bad.
Yeah. I thought you're getting away from self-managing though.
I know.
Don't do it, Jenny.
Couldn't help herself. Couldn't help herself.
Is it because of the numbers or just because you can do it better than...
Yeah, I mean, I feel like as much as I grumble about self-managing, now that I've taken everything back, I kind of have everything like very well greased, I would say. So even the multifamilies that we're self-managing, everyone kind of has, the process down, tenants, us, so I think that we all kind of have a good, flow going. So I'm like, all right, this isn't too bad anymore. I'm just going to take on another one. I couldn't resist. It's a pretty good deal. Hopefully we can refinance it in a little bit and maybe put some more down after we sell our property that we plan on selling in the spring.
Yeah, talk about the lazy 1031. So we did a podcast a little bit ago with Hall CPA, and this was on the strategy. So you're buying the fourplex first, selling the rental, not doing a 1031 exchange, and then you're going to do a cost segregation on the fourplex to help offset gains and depreciation recapture, right?
Exactly. Yes. So that is the plan. I'm really crossing my fingers that we get that 100% bonus depreciation thing that they're talking about in Congress. They're considering extending 100% bonus depreciation for a few more years to include this year. So that would plus things up a bit, but considering 60%, which is what we're at for 2024, it would still be a pretty decent deal based on kind of estimations for that. So I think it would offset pretty much most of the gain on that.
Great. So do you have a pretty big capital gain from the place you're selling?
Oh yeah. A good problem to have, but definitely. Yeah. And it's so it should be about $150K capital gain on that one.
Wow. Yeah, good problem to have. And so you think even at the current 60% bonus depreciation, will that offset a lot, or kind of what percent of the gains do you think it'll offset?
It'll offset maybe I think 70% of it, but I'd have to go back and, double check that. But,
okay, so about 2/3 or so.
Yeah. And if I have to pay a little bit, at the end, cause that's okay too. If I have to pay a little bit of tax on the gain, it's, a good problem to have, I think. But yeah, I think it should absorb a good chunk of it.
And you don't want to do a reverse 1031?
Honestly, I don't know if it's worth the headache. And I know that's kind of a lazy statement, but
good thing you're lazy 1031, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of keep things simple. And then, I know what my basis and this new property is right off the bat. Don't have to worry about it. So,
yeah. What were the rents? Are those market rents over there? Like $1,500 per unit, or not? Actually, it's a little bit less than that. Or is it? Do you have some room for rent growth once you optimize it a little bit after the tenant's leases come up?
I'm very happy with their, a little bit averaged out, I think about 1,300 ish. There's one that's particularly low, so I would consider raising that one, modestly. The other ones I would keep exactly where they're at. I think that it's even above market. So I wouldn't want to rock the boat too much over there.
Cool. Sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Speaking of fourplexes. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say one other strategy that we currently finished up yesterday was renovating an existing property that we already owned. So, I've kind of been a frequent voice of take what you got and optimize what you've got. So we had a property that was in really good shape, but I called it a bit of a grandma home. It had very 90s finishings, it's just very dated. So we gave it a facelift, and I just finished running all the numbers on it. I have it already rented out for $150 more a month, and we spent $12,000 to do the renovation. So it was about a 15% return on that. So I was pretty happy with that.
So was the main reason you renovated it was that to get like a increase the rents or just okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How long did the turn take you? Was that
negative? Because I actually ended up renting it. I wasn't expecting this, but one of my tenants is related to my contractor, and he went over there and said, "Hey, I really like this. Can I swap leases?" So I said, "Yeah, sure. Sounds good." So, contractor finished it yesterday. So we had the lease start yesterday. So he's going to work on, turning over the other house to me. And that one should be really easy to get rented out as well. So.
Well, nice job on the tight turnaround time.
Did you include potpourri and wallpaper to match the old decor, or is that not included for the lease signing?
It was not. No.
So talking fourplexes, Jeff, Troy, you guys have another Denver fourplex, 5% down, conventional house hack in the works, right?
Yeah. So still under negotiations. Still going through it, but same story as the one we talked about a couple months ago. Utilizing that new Fannie Mae rule.
Yep.
The 5%,
owner occupied, 5% down. Rinse and repeat.
And same area, same rents, even the same fourplex design. So it's not like for the underwriting team over there, it's probably like the same thing. It's just qualifying the borrower.
Correct. Yeah. Exactly.
Yep. But yeah, we're still going through it. Actually it's has a newer roof and newer windows, so it has a little more updates than the other ones. So it has potential for the right investor.
What's the kind of rough price point? And
$800,000.
Okay.
Rents, Jenny, are below your rents down there, $1,200 each for every unit, one vacant unit for owner occupant to move into. Market rents between $1,500 to $1,700, and Section 8, which is one of my favorite strategies for this type of rental, $2,201 per unit for 2 bedrooms. So you get like $600 per unit extra, potentially times 4. So that's where the true value could lie on this particular fourplex.
Have you, I know on the similar fourplex nearby, I know the Section 8 renewing leases using Section 8 rents was part of the plan. Have any of those turned over yet?
One is turned over right now. So
have you gotten the what the housing authority is?
Yeah, no, it's already on. If you go, it's in the city Arvada, which is a suburb of Denver. On the Arvada Housing Authority webpage, you go into the rent and utility allowance little tab, and it shows exactly $2,201 for 2 bedrooms, and so it's already there. So yeah, if they don't pay it, I'm gonna be like, okay, what the hell, guys? But yeah, no, it's already there. So they already updated it. Like that's usually it goes from federally the HUD, Housing Urban Development, release it September 30th, and then trickles down to state and local levels. And usually some states and local municipalities update it like literally a month later. So even the prior year, but other ones take till January of the following year, usually. And Arvada was January of this year. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but it's still a great deal. And I'm really excited for the buyer.
So Troy, what are rates now like on the 5% down multis?
High 6s-ish. Yeah,
Really?
not doing too bad.
Was that with a big point buy down or pretty close?
No, just a modest.
Okay.
Modest, maybe a half point-ish on there. But
wow.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's definitely workable and slightly better than what we had on the previous 4-unit deal. Yeah. So if all the numbers click in, he'll be slightly ahead.
You could move in, Jenny.
Yeah, Jenny.
Yeah, fully occupied. Sorry.
Bummer, huh?
Everyone who knows me knows I'm never moving from my current home. So
Love it.
no matter how good of a deal.
So 5% down, high 6s. That's really great right now.
Yeah.
What are closing costs on it?
Nothing more than traditional closing costs, really. Yeah. I mean, basic closing costs, maybe about $3,500 for all the hard cost and soft costs. So maybe $10,000 is what I generally throw in for a number. That's your first year of insurance, your prepaid interest, escrow account setup, all that kind of stuff. But those are clean units to buy. Yeah. They're very straightforward. Nothing crazy.
Are you seeing other clients, other agent relationships? Are you seeing more of the market pick up to the 5% down conventional loans?
Yes. Yeah, there's definitely been some activity on that, especially with multi-unit.
Any other type
like a duplex recently closed, owner occupied, that worked out great.
And it's 5% down on it?
They did 5% down, which they wouldn't have been able to do before because they were requiring 15 on a conventional owner occ. So that worked out awesome for them. So just closed on that 2-3 weeks ago.
Okay.
With Lauren.
Great. So you're seeing more of that tick up, huh?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, which is what they wanted. And, VA and FHA had been doing minimum down owner occupied for quite a while. But the beauty of the conventional is you can use those rental income from those other units, whereas you have to do that, that self-sufficiency test with FHA. So it's almost a little easier with conventional.
Are you seeing less FHA multi-downs and more conventional multi-downs now?
Yeah, for sure.
Really?
And I don't know if it's just mainly from what we've been working on together with that, but in my world, for sure.
Yeah.
Because the PMI drops off in conventional, right? At a certain point, and then FHA.
Or you can work it. It'll drop off on its own when it gets to its threshold, but you can also expedite it to be dropped off. Whereas with FHA, you can't do anything other than refinance it off.
Yeah. So, as before the next deal, highlight here, we got Jenny down south doing a lazy 1031 exchange or a lazy 1031. Selling property, buying new place, cost saving to help offset a lot of it. Jeff is seeing a lot of activity potential in bumping rents and really focusing on the market rents or even premium market rents that Section 8 is paying. So not so much in value add on units, but great in rent and increasing value through increasing the rents. And we're seeing more trends in the 5% down conventional as well. So for as the market has shifted, 3 trends that we're seeing more and more of.
Yeah.
And then you were talking about, talking the FHA and conventional stuff. Another deal I want to talk about is one of our clients. I think she's on her 4th house hack. Her and her husband going on their 4th house hack. And there's a very interesting story on there, how you're able to make it all work. House hacking, a little loan hacking.
Right.
What's the setup on that? Because this is such a nuanced thing, but we have so many people wanting to know how do you scale from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5.
Yeah. So the key a lot of times for folks is making sure you're washing off or generating income off of the other units you have. So in their case, they've got 3 properties. So we're going to roll into number 4 and just making sure we had good offsets for house 1, 2, and 3. So house number 3 was an owner occupied primary. So to convert that into an investment property and then qualify for a new FHA loan on house hack number 4, which was really driven by credit score situation that needed to be accommodated. So FHA by far made the best sense. So minimum down, mortgage insurance is static. FHA doesn't care if you have an 800 or a 580 credit score, you pay the same mortgage insurance. So FHA was the way we had to go, but there's nuances within the FHA guidelines we had to work through. And the big one with that is your departure is not more than 100 miles away, you've got to count the full payment on house number 3. And so qualifying for house number 4 isn't going to work.
So if the new house is not more than 100 miles away, you can't count the rental income?
On house at your departure.
Okay.
So the key to that is she got a lease set up on house number 3, moved in with the folks for a period of time. So not long term, but for a period of time, we were able to document that. That's her departure residence. Then we can use the lease on house act number 3 to qualify for number 4.
Yeah.
So we had to get everything kind of polished up, ready to go, because nothing worse than having a client go through those hoops. It's like, we can't do the home purchase on number 4, but everything came through. They followed the prescription and doctor's orders, and we got there. We closed last week.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And this is why, again, to highlight, like when people are going, whether you're house hacking or buying your next landlord rental, like talk with the lender sooner rather than later, especially right now, since we're in tax season. And sometimes you may have to report your income a certain way to have certain thresholds or whatever it is. So if you have a purchase you want to do this year, maybe make, talk to the lender now for planning and also for tax planning, because it pays off big time.
It does. And in fact, I'm thinking about another deal that taxes are being worked on.
Yep.
Let alone yourself, but another client that we're working on. And we're analyzing the taxes now to determine what we can do before they're official.
1099.
Right? Yep.
Yeah.
And this is all just part of the game we like to talk about. And I mean, another reason why, like, whether you work with Troy as a lender or just a local lender, please work with an experienced lender. And our preference is local lenders. We see a lot more deals get complete with them than the big national guys. So on that note, Troy, we see a couple clients here kind of do that same situation where they have to move out, and a lot of times doing with like a family or parent for a month or two. Do you see that? How frequently do you see that on your side, on the lending side?
It was kind of rare to do it, but the borrower's up for it and had the situation that it would accommodate that ability to do it, because not everybody's going to have that ability. So, to have a parent lives nearby that has a space for them to move into and live there for a period of time, but it worked out great.
Yeah.
So,
well, good job getting that one to the finish line.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, last deal going up north. I know last time on last podcast, you were just closing on a new build.
Yeah, I think what we talked about, and I think you actually even kind of joked about it in October, saying, you know what, the best deals, we were talking about new construction, and there are deals coming towards the end of the year.
And you got one, and it's a phenomenal one.
And that's where it's like, you know what, it's I guess walking the talk. So, we went, looked, down in an area we wanted to be at, and we were leaving a place that was going to be rented out. And that was the way we purchased it originally. And they had this about $87,000 more during the summer. It was new construction, and it was kind of drifting down. And then they were adding in some pretty significant rate buy downs. And so we were able to get it for, just under 7 and get the rate buy down. But one of the interesting things, and I hadn't come across that, and I'd actually been working with Troy saying, okay, let's go ahead and get pre-qualified with somebody. And so that's what we talk about. So I was doing that. But they said, well, you know what? We've got our own in-house lender. So I went and said, okay, let's talk to them, see what they can do. And Troy and I talked, he goes, is there a way you can beat that? We talked about different ways. Well, there wasn't. But what happened was I went to the lender and basically started getting pre-qualified. And they said, we can't underwrite you. And I said, I don't understand why. I said, well, you've purchased too many houses too quickly. And I said, well, each one of them were at least 5% down, 12 months. They sent me some information on what red flags were for loan fraud. And it was like, if you're buying a duplex and both of them have full leases, if you're doing, a lot of these things, none of them applied. So I called Troy and I said, I don't even understand this. I wrote him a letter of explanation, all that stuff. They came back and said, sorry, we can't do that. And I said, well, that's funny because if there's anybody should be worried is the last 2 that we bought 5% down. I'm going to come in and put 20% down. They're like, yeah, just can't do that. So I was working with Troy at the same time. I said, okay, buddy. I'd actually, with new builds, you have to give them a little bit of money and then they want more money for the down. So I gave them $500 and then they gave me back my $500 because they couldn't deliver. So I said, Troy, okay, let's get this going fast. So he hustled we got it done. And so I think on December 5th, we were ready to go, went back to them and said, hey, you know what? I know that, you couldn't underwrite us, and that's your guys' false narrative on your situation, but will you still give us this to be able to buy down the rate? And so they gave us all that they were going to do that. So we still bought down the rate to 5.75.
Yeah, wow. Which I think was a little bit better than what they were even.
Yeah, they were trying to get it down to 5.875. So we got it down to that. Plus they paid a bulk of the closing cost, and we got a good price. And I was like, okay, this is a really good deal. So
and we approved the loan.
Yeah, and well, and that's where that's where it's a little bit nervous, because when you get in these,
key point.
when you get in with the new builds, some of these you can put in 1,000 to start, and then they go for some of the options, and it's half. It could be 12-15. This one was 60,000 if you don't use their lender. So I didn't want to write a check.
A lot of incentive there.
I didn't want to write a check until I knew. I mean, he and I were like elbow to elbow on this.
Yeah,
but we did it.
No pressure. No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. And it ended up happening. I think by the time we actually signed the contract with the builder to closing was less than 3 weeks. So I think it was December 5th. And we ended up closing.
20th?
We closed on the 21st.
21st.
Which was the Friday before Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Or the Thursday before Christmas. Thursday
Something
before
like
Christmas. And we just said, okay, great, we got it. And then we moved the next week. So everybody was really happy when they woke up the day after Christmas and there were 2 trucks and movers sitting outside of the house to move us. But we were able to do it, get it done, and saved over $100,000 on a house that now, if you go back in there, the rate buy downs are no longer available. Mm-hmm. And so there are some out there, that if you keep looking, and that's what we do. I was on, some places I looked in Fort Collins, and there's one that's like 133 off of their list price for a 3-bed, 2-bath, 3-car garage or 2-car garage. And so it's, it's out there because these builders have certain things they need to do that you don't always see. But if you're aware and you're able to action them, that's the kind of deal. So that's where Troy and I got that done. And it was a bit crazy. It made the holidays a little bit nuts, but $100,000 worth having a little bit of a nutty holiday.
Oh, yeah. So. And being pre-approved made a huge difference because then we could go quick.
Yeah.
So
we were good to go. And so fortunately, Troy, they looked at, the strength of the balance sheet and income. And so we were able to actually have 2 payments. Mm-hmm. Because we had not rented out our previous property. Mm. And the beautiful thing is that we actually were able to have that be marketed by our property manager. And so we left for Thailand on the 16th of January, and the email came across saying, yeah, they moved in yesterday.
Nice.
And all I do is say, great, here's the keys, go get them. So that those are the kind of nice wins but it's not a lucky win. It's a being prepared win.
Absolutely.
Because had I not said, Troy, let's get this figured out, and then they offered me something they couldn't deliver, then I was able to actually go back and leverage that against them. And so they were able to give us that. They gave us garage door opener. They were trying to give us washer and dryer. And I'm like, I don't need any more of those. So we got that plus a bunch of little extras and the discount off the purchase price. So I go, you know what? That's, to me, was a great deal. And so we're going to be able to, enjoy that house for years to come. So we'll see.
And they were happy to move the inventory too by year end. So it worked out.
And it was a great deal for them. They got what they wanted. They needed to move some by the end of the year to get them off their books.
Yeah. So congrats on that. Yeah, and again, highlighting another strategy that's working is you keep your eyes on new builds, which is a big part of Northern Colorado growth and investing strategy up there. And when it comes to year end or their fiscal year end or a tranche of having to pay off a certain amount of their loans, they will wheel and deal to get things done. Even though hey, that one house, we look at that one house, but they're looking at a 300 house portfolio, right? And they have a difference. Hey, we just have to offload this to unlock this next whatever. Right. So they're
getting rid of loose ends. But it's a great deal for somebody coming in and buying it. So,
And the other thing, of course, again, a lot of times builders have some really good lender incentives. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're great. Sometimes they can't deliver. Sometimes they're also not the best deals. But again, you talk with Troy or another local lender and have the relationship. And a lot of times they can beat them. Sometimes they can't, but
at least we can validate the deal too. Yeah, we can help make sure. Yeah, that's a legit deal.
You've helped other clients hey, that's actually a really good thing. You should take them.
100%.
You're hey, I would love to do the loan for you, but they're giving you a better deal. which is
it's built into the price, the house and stuff, but it makes sense. So from a
and it's
consumer
also
standpoint,
built into the price of a lot of other houses. So
Right,
everybody else
exactly.
is contributing to that builder being able to provide
Support
that
that.
discount. Because
Exactly.
if you look at it, so interest rates were somewhere around 7 at that time. In December,
Yeah, might have been.
upper 6s.
Yeah,
So-
low 7s.
So they paid for the rate buy down. So we're at 5.75, which is great. It's not
Still
perfect.
great.
It's not.
It's
not
still
what it
great
was.
today.
It's still great today.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to buy it down. They bought it down. So and they're not
Beautiful.
doing it anymore. So if it gets down into the low 5s or in the high 4s, I can refinance at that point, and it'd be worth it again. So, but I'm also getting appreciation that will happen because it's forced, because the ones that are out on the market now, they're back up at that rate they were last summer.
Yeah.
So they're
built-in
selling for that.
equity.
And they're not giving that rate buy down amount. So I go, that's $100,000 that feels good to going, okay. So when people buy them and they start buying back in at that 770, 780, or, hitting into the 8s, then perfect, or perfect for us.
Yes. Yeah.
What's your long-term play with it? Do you want to live
I
a
don't
couple
know.
years? or-
Well, I mean, this is where the last 36 months, it's been a lot going on in my personal life, but in this, we sold one house in Arvada and bought 6.
Wow.
I think I'm going to take a little time and go back to Thailand or go in a few other places too. So
Sweet.
That's good to do.
just kind of let it ride for a minute.
cool. Well, let's move on to trends now. Good stuff on the deals. It feels weird doing those first, but we'll make it through the podcast. So some trends on here before I actually get into it. It is legislative season right now in Colorado. So I'm sure a lot of people have seen emails flying around for HB 241098. I mean, we sent an email on there. I've seen a lot of other just groups and, other brokerages send it out. Won't go into details on here, but just, last year, I think there were 9 laws passed that were very pro-tenant, tougher, a lot more requirements for the landlord. So just be aware of this stuff, be involved, and please go out there and talk to your representation.
Yeah.
If you guys need help, Jenny, we did the podcast with Daniel Muldoon of the Colorado Landlord Legislation Coalition last year. That is a great group. I'm a member of it. If you guys want up-to-dates or donate some money, go support them. So moving on to trends here, because that is a global trend for Colorado. In Denver, I was looking at the stats earlier this week. My punchline for Denver is that the Denver market is staying strong, and a lot of the numbers are basically reverting back to like pre-COVID numbers, like the 2018, 2019 numbers. Won't bore you guys with all the stats, but like looking at showing trends. So this is for when a listing's on the market, how many people go look at the property. It is right there about 8 listings or 8 showings per listing, which is right between the averages of 2018, 2019 time frame. So looking at that averages there. The last thing I'll talk on the numbers here for Denver is the price point. Both median and the average are up about 4.5%, say 5% for simplistic stuff, year over year. So looking from January 23 to January 24, prices are up about just under 5%. And we're seeing a lot of the other indicators following the same trends. Inventory, kind of supporting, hey, typical numbers we expect to see, seasonality, and really in line with what we saw in like 2018 and 2019 numbers. Jenny, what are you seeing down south?
Me and Leah have deemed it early spring. It has been like this past month has been like very frenzied almost. It's been really interesting. So I know
Frenzied? Really?
Yeah, a couple of her deals they've had to go above list again to win it out. They're competing with many other buyers. So it's definitely got that spring feel to it. And then looking at the stats, interestingly enough, January is reporting pretty much no change in price for average or median. So for average sales price, it's down 0.5% from January of last year. It's up 0.5% from December. So, kind of no movement there. Same with median sales price. It's up 1% from last year, and down 1% from last month. So really kind of no movement there. But the key, stat that I'm looking at is the new listings almost doubled from last month.
January 23 to this January?
No, from December to January. It's pretty in line.
Is that a bigger jump than normal? Like it doubling?
I don't recall it jumping. I think this December was like basically non-existent. So I think that has caused such a huge impact to the market. It's pretty in line with last January, the number of new listings. So I thought that was really interesting. So it just feels like there's a lot happening right now.
Yeah. So more inventory and more buyers and more bidding wars.
Yes, there's been a lot of bidding wars, ourselves included with things. So yeah, it's kind of like early spring, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's been, I'd say, somewhat what we're seeing in Denver as well. I mean, that's what I've been feeling and hearing as well. Like Jeff, Troy.
Yes.
I mean, you're on the lending side. So are you in the fun a lot more having to wheel and deal to help get your client under contract when there's multiple buyers now?
There's definitely been multiple buyer situations. Mm-hmm. I agree with Jenny 100%. It feels like early spring. It started like first, second week of January.
So how many, what's kind of like a recent one with how many? Are we talking like 3 offers, 9 offers? What's kind of the range of frenziness we're in?
Gosh, I had a deal in December. I think the listing agent said he had like 8.
Yeah. So,
it's price point, it's area, it's, how it shows that all that is going to come in and be a factor. But yeah, it seems like it's a little more frenzied.
Yeah, and for me, same thing. Jenny up here early spring. So on anecdotally, house in Inglewood, which is a small suburb in Denver Metro, and basic 3-bed, 2-bath house, priced well. Pictures are okay, nothing spectacular about it. Had 3 offers in like a day, and one person, I haven't seen this in a while, Jenny either, or Steve, is someone waived their whole inspection. I haven't seen that in like 2 years, and that's the one that won the offer. I was like that. I mean, the house, I mean, I get why they did it, but it's just like, I don't know if I would push that right now.
It's not a great idea to start getting back into that.
Yeah, and I had 3 offers, and
how old's the home?
Like 1942.
Yeah, Inglewood's old inventory.
Yeah, and it from the picture, I mean, nice. They updated some parts, but definitely I wouldn't suggest that, especially in this market. Even in this market, early spring, I still think you should still full inspection and all that.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And they won that. They did.
Systems.
We lost out on that one. We put an offer in, even with the 2-week close, and they took that one because.
So you're one of the 3 offers that lost out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely seeing it too, Jenny. It's early spring too, and if it's priced well, of course, stuff that sits usually they price it. They're too aggressive with the pricing, but stuff that's priced well, good pictures, good description, that's legit, then it could get multiple offers. And then the time, when do they list it? Do they list it on a Sunday night or like a Wednesday?
Yeah,
that also impacts it too.
What have you seen on the rates, Troy? Because I know rates dropped in December, and they ticked back up here. So has that changed any demand or mortgage applications with
not really that I'm seeing on a very micro level.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much have rates drifted up since the last
maybe an eighth or a quarter at the most. Not a lot. It's not like it's gone off the deep end. I mean, we had a little bit of a off week last week, but
we see off week, it was just volatile or a little higher than settled back down?
There was a day, I think, when the CPI came out, didn't help the cause much.
Yeah.
And I think they went. They didn't anticipate it, and so it obviously caught them off guard. So it kind of made things jump a little bit, and then we had a little bit of a recoil on that. So nothing dramatic. I mean, like I tell clients all the time, all those rates are still available, but the cost for that rate just went up. $1,500 or $2,000, depending upon your loan size. So that's the way to kind of keep it in perspective.
What are you seeing up north, Steve? What are some trends that caught your eye?
I think what Jenny said was kind of interesting because it's like the kind of early spring, but usually you see that kind of dip between December and January, and it's one of them's the lowest. But we're seeing right now, pricing's doing fairly okay. I mean, Fort Collins is up, I think 7% for the median price in January. Some of the others were offsetting, so it can be that there's smaller numbers. So sometimes you can have certain, big properties or small properties set that, I guess throw that a little bit off. But what is a nice leading indicator is we're seeing more new listings than last year and the year before. So there's more listings in this January than there was in 23, which makes sense. But then 22 also. And then there's more under contract right now than there was last year. So to me, that's a good leading indicator that people are starting to get off the sidelines, because at some point you have to say the interest rate is what it is. It's the new normal. It's not going to drop right back down. All those people that are saying it is, it's not going to happen. So I still need to get, you have family formations, you have other things going on. They've got to keep moving. And so they are. So that's why I think we're seeing more listings, because people are saying, okay, it's okay to sell. And you're seeing people under contract. And so you're seeing people that are jumping in. Yeah. There's just not enough inventory. So as more people start to do that, then it may, start to help. But we've still got a lot of new construction that is still rolling along in northern Colorado. So I think people are kind of starting to get back out and saying, okay, we may have got knocked down by interest rates over the last 2 years, but we're going to dust ourselves off. We got a way to go forward, and let's just go do it. And there's creative ways like with Troy.
So, I think people are getting kind of used to the new interest rates now, especially how we've dropped about a point since 3 or 4 months ago.
Right.
Like, it's not as high as it used to be. So even though they're high compared to 2 years ago to a few months ago, the perception is just so different.
A bit better. Yeah. And then like we've talked about before, the cost of waiting, right?
Yep.
And we're starting to see the market pick up. The prices are going to come up. The negotiations aren't going to be as favorable to the buyer, right? You're not going to get all the concessions. So it makes sense to roll.
Yeah. So that's what's going on. I mean, we just saw another new big 600 unit get approved for I think it was Landmark up right in Fort Collins. So they're going to be planting another 600 units in a high density area that's got.
Is it single family or an apartment?
I think it's going to be single family. It might be a mix. So it's still preliminary. It just got approved by the Fort Collins, I guess, government. So they're going to be putting 605, family units there. So that's a nice thing. So it starts to add. So that means there's more inventory to buy, and we'll see how quickly that gets snapped up, and that's good indicators that people, because if builders are feeling confident and they're putting them in, then, they're still saying, it's going to sell, because they've got bigger stakes than any one of us in a single
deal. A lot of data they pull from.
Yeah.
Are you noticing builders change their mindset a little bit to build smaller new builds versus the larger?
There's one builder up there that's kind of interesting. So they're trying to hit a price point. So they're doing crawl spaces instead of basements. And so you can get a better price on something that just has a crawl space. But so you kind of go in excited, look at the price point, and then you go, oh, it doesn't have a basement. And, if you're on the West Coast or sometimes like in the Southeast, you don't have basements. But here, pretty much everything has a basement. It's a feature like, oh, you don't have air conditioning. It's like you come to expect it. But if somebody wants to get into a house and they're okay with a crawl space, but I don't know how many people want to shimmy down a ladder to, put some of their excess stuff. So
as a kid that grew up in a house with a crawl space and worked for a general contractor for a few years in high school, and used to go into crawl spaces for installation. Yeah, crawl spaces are not fun for long-term stuff.
Is that why you still get claustrophobic in places?
Part of that was, though, the good lesson I learned there, because I was a cheap summer labor, $10 an hour back then, and they would do additions onto like single family homes, add the master bed or add a new wing to the house, and I quickly learned that I do not want it reinforced my plan to go to college.
Yeah.
This is not the career I want. Thing. This is, it's good for now, but this is tough.
I had one of those where it was wet and dry 600 sanding horse trailers that said, yep, you're going to go to collage. So,
but anytime I see installation, I do get automatically itchy. It's like Pavlov's dog.
He just sees a picture of it. And
kind of make me upside down.
I want to throw one question out here, because this was something I was talking about. I just come up in a few different conversations in different circles of mine, like investors and some just friends and neighborhood type thing. And it's what's going on in the downtowns. I'm curious to the Springs downtown and the Denver, I see a lot of articles in Denver, obviously commercial and office leasing is getting hammered up here. Is Colorado Springs getting hammered that much, Jenny, like Denver downtown is, or do you know?
We don't have like skyscrapers like you guys do. I mean, there are quite a few cranes downtown that are for apartment buildings. So I'm very curious how that's going to turn out, because I know the luxury apartments that are downtown right now, I think they're priced very high. So I'm really curious to see kind of how that plays out, if they're going to have to lower their pricing, to kind of meet demand. So yeah, we shall see. But I'm curious how it'll end up shaking out.
You guys got any like thoughts or feelings on like one of the things that came up with the conversation was just you look at places like San Francisco and I think they're in that doom loop that they're talking about, just, properties are being foreclosed on, tax bases leaving, people are moving, like they have their issues.
That's for a couple of reasons, I think. So, I went to Portland in September because I used to love going there, and it's not the same. So in 2020, they did some things that San Francisco, they're not able, and it's not a judgment, but they've got so much homeless and so much drug use that people are leaving the downtowns, and that's before COVID hit and people didn't want to work. So you have two big factors that are going on. And so they're actually revisiting that in Portland right now to say what they did is they decriminalized drugs, but they didn't decriminalize taking them in public. So people were shipping people that had problems to that. And it's terrible. I mean, I was on crutches with my foot, and I had people that growled at me. I'm like, well, I may have to use this not to walk, but to, defend myself. So, but I think there's some things that are happening that are impacting them additional to what this.
Oh, I agree there. Yeah.
My daughter we just moved her from an apartment that's over on the other side of Coors Field. And that apartment, she got a notice. She was splitting it with another roommate that they had individual leases in the place, that they went bankrupt. And so they weren't going to be supplying the security and the gym and all those cool features. So she was able to get out of it. And
so them going bankrupt, like, did that void the lease?
So they let everybody out.
And was this like a new build type apartment building?
It's, okay. I could show you right where it's at. It's right in that little pocket that's on the other side of kind of between the tracks on 20th.
Uh-huh.
And so it's right there. And so she got out of it, actually got a better deal on one in Rhino.
Nice.
That is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath unit that she's got all to herself.
So her rent went down.
Nice.
And was that through rent or just a giant concession?
No, it wasn't even with the concession. So,
wow.
So that's kind of what's happening right here in the apartment space. So, I don't know exactly what situation happened with them, but one can assume that, something happened. They couldn't meet their obligations. They had to give it back. They had to drop it. And so somebody will come in and get that for a deal. So I can give you the address if Terrence wants to go and talk to him. So,
I mean, how many? I mean, that's probably like one of like the big Class A buildings.
That's
wow.
Yeah, Steve, I'm just curious. You probably don't know, but do you know what they're going to do with like the rest of the tenants that are in there? Or is everyone just leaving because
people are bailing out?
Yeah, because they're not getting what they asked for.
I think when we helped her get in there, God, it was last summer. It was dog eat dog to get a parking spot in there, and there was a wait list, and now it's like park wherever you like. So it's hollowing out. They're leaving concessions to just try and keep people in. They're dropping it $200, $300, $400 a month just to keep somebody in there.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a little bit as a dad. I'm like, when they said we're getting rid of we're dropping the security, that immediately was my first red flag. I'm like, everything else, I'm not. Get rid of the gym, the little stuff like that, security. And my daughter is my primary thing. So, and I think there's probably a lot of other people too that goes, you know what, I don't feel comfortable in there. And so, but yeah, so so it was nice. I actually went and had lunch with her yesterday, and it's like, she's in a great little spot right there on that little industry, where Broadway becomes Brighton. So, but that's going to happen a lot more over time, and we're going to see that. And there's going to be opportunities for some of those big ones to get bought up. So we'll see.
Yeah. I'm excited to see office to apartment conversions.
Yeah.
So Denver is like a top 10 city that actually is doing it. San Francisco's not, which is really surprising to me. All the empty apartment offices over there. but I want to see the business opportunity for the right developers, investors that pursue that. Because I imagine how offices are, all these empty office space is just wasted space, but because you have so much way more remote workers now, how you can convert those to apartments, and if that's feasible. Like, do you need tax credits? Do you need like some type of help with the city?
I've had a few people who, try to do over the years, a couple of community projects, but overall it's like very few can actually be converted. I've heard difference between like less than about 10 to 15% can be converted just because of the way they're built.
Yeah. That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
It's costly. The construction of the building has a lot to do with whether or not it can be converted. Certain kinds can't, because it has to have the right setup to be able to be converted. If it isn't, then you're going to spend money hand over fist.
Someone said you would spend more money to convert it versus just knock it down and build new.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you know any active projects going on for that?
Not directly. I just saw an article, like Denver is one of the more out of like the top 50 metropolitan areas. Denver is a top 10 one. Yeah, which is, I was like, oh, I didn't know that, because I always think of Denver as more bottom of the list for stuff like creative like that, because I think of like ADUs and how Denver makes it so hard for something like that. But being more proponent for it, I'm like, oh wow, that's actually surprising. Denver's trying to, or at least in the works, so we'll see if that actually happens.
Yeah, because
you're right, like the office buildings aren't designed to switch to residential use that easily without a huge cost. So it should be interesting to watch.
Great. Well, another great podcast, guys. I like doing the deals first and trends, so we'll see what we do next month. But great job, Jeff, Troy, Steve, Jenny, as always. Thank you for coming out. If you're out there watching and listening, want to come review a deal, figure out your strategy, buy your next property, reach out to us. We're here to give you value, give you our 2 cents, and hopefully help you go out there and do your next deal. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Cool. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.